So you can see here, they're actually doing pretty well together. Now Merlin is an adult drake. He's not going to get any bigger, though his barnacles may grow. He's got big claws. And Gatsby, being a younger drake, his claws are much smaller. So for me, I don't know if you can see those there too well. For me, that's my biggest concern, is that he would get hurt by Merlin. All right, so I did a thing today. I bought these dog houses and this one barrel, but I got a deal on these dog houses from a lady in Greenville, and I'm pretty excited to use these for our Muscovies with our breeding pen this year as nesting boxes. These things are pretty heavy though, I'm not gonna lie, they're heavy duty. The barrel, she just, watch out, bug. Dog, you're gonna get smoked by this stuff. Get out of here, Callie. Run along. Got 3 that are, I think they're the same. And they've been chewed a little. Lady I bought them from, her aunt and uncle used to raise German Shepherds. So they've been put to the test with dogs. They're definitely not in perfect condition, but they're gonna work awesome. And because they're so heavy duty, I know they'll hold up really, really well. And a duck could never put a hurting on them the way a German Shepherd could, so. Hey guys, I'm Kaylyn and welcome back to Fable Hill Farm. Today we are going to be talking about how to successfully integrate a new bird into your existing Muscovy flock. Now, we're here in West Michigan, Zone 5B, and most things here are still buried under snow and ice, and will continue to be buried under more snow and ice and more snow and ice until the end of March, early April. That's really when we'll start to see things return to being green again and have the snow melt away. So I've had a lot of requests for videos on things like breeding pen setup and you know, breeding behavior and broodiness and all of that, and when to breed Muscovies, and that stuff I'll definitely get to. So if you're here for that kind of content, make sure you stay tuned and subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed, and hit the notification bell so you get notified when I post new videos. Just bear in mind that it's winter and we can't really talk about those things right now because we can't do any of those things. So I have this drake that I got in the last week and a half, and I'm about to release him out on my property for the first time. Well, technically not the first time. He did escape a few days ago and I had to chase him all around and herd him back into his pen, and I'll link that video down below if you want to check that out. But he's been in this pen and I'm ready to let him out. I think it's a good time. It's not going to get any warmer. I think the ducks have warmed up to him, and so that's my plan, is to let him out. But I thought I would take you guys along and talk to you about considerations, things to think about and things to do so that you can safely integrate or introduce a new bird to your existing flock. The first thing to bear in mind is that there is a pecking order with pretty much all animals in nature. With Muscovies, I would say overall they do tend to tolerate a new member to their flock pretty well. Severe aggression is typically genetic and more so seen in drakes than in hens, and it's just overall kind of uncommon. That's something I would call for. I would absolutely not keep an aggressive drake if I had one. I have thankfully not had that issue yet, but it is typically genetic and overall uncommon to see. So I'm hopeful that my blue-barred drake Merlin is going to be accepting of this new drake, who I've named Gatsby, once they work it out. But there is going to be some dominance. There's going to be some things that have to be sorted between them, and I already know that. I've accepted that they're going to fight, the hens are also going to fight with him, and they're going to bully him, and they're going to see how far he's willing to let them go. Now, because he's a young drake and because he's being introduced to a flock of 11 birds, that's 1 other drake and 10 hens, he's going to have a bit of stress and sorting out to do, and it's likely going to be a difficult situation for him. But because I've followed certain steps and guidelines in order to make sure this was a successful transition for him, I think it's going to be okay in the long run. He's just going to have to work it out. So step 1 is quarantining your animal. Now, this bird, Gatsby, as I said, I've named him, comes from a fellow Muscovy breeder and friend of mine in Greenville who I've gotten birds from for quite a while now. I know that she has healthy animals. I know she takes the best care of her birds, and so I was not in any way concerned that this bird would be unhealthy. The only reason that I quarantined him is to allow him and my existing flock to interact with each other safely with a barrier between them so that he was not injured by any of the birds, especially Merlin, who is much larger, older drake than he is. So if you had a bird that you didn't know, the person it came from, or you weren't sure if it was healthy or not, the quarantining process is even more important because you don't want to introduce any diseases or illnesses to your flock. If you have healthy birds and you continuously bring in birds from different places, it becomes more and more likely that you're going to wind up with some kind of sickness that wasn't there before. Now, lots of bacteria in poultry can be very common, and there are some things in Muscovies like hepatitis and herpes that can be very highly contagious, but overall those things are quite uncommon, and Muscovies do tend to be very healthy birds. So what do you look for in a quarantine pen? Well, this setup, which was actually here when we moved in, it's a dog run, and it was connected to our garage. You can see through here, there's a dog door that goes into the garage, and we sealed all that off. The previous owners had a dog that was living in their garage and would come out and all that, so that's why this pen was here. But it's worked perfect for us for quarantining poultry. Now, we added this netting over the top, and this is to protect the birds from predators such as raccoons and foxes. So this is a great setup because we free range our birds. And as you can see here, what I've done and what I do on a regular basis, water's all frozen over, his is too in there. So what I do is I feed him, and I put feed out on the other side, and I've got water on this side, and he's got his own water. And what that does is that encourages a positive social interaction between the existing flock and the new bird. So because they're eating together, because they're drinking together, bathing, all of that, they're just getting used to seeing each other regularly. You can see here comes one of my Muscovies. This is my black ripple hen, and she's gonna come over and just check things out, probably because I'm filming. So the quarantine pen needs to be secure, and it needs to be visible to your existing flock. They need to be able to interact with each other and see each other so that they can get used to the idea of this new bird coming into their space. Now, if you're not free ranging your birds like I am, then obviously you want your quarantine pen to be closer to their pen and have a visible but not shared fence line. If you are concerned about biosecurity, meaning disease, health, all of that, then you would not want them to be able to, like these birds can, touch each other and get close to each other. In case that new bird had any type of contagious disease, you wouldn't want them to interact with one another that closely. Again, because I know this bird is healthy, I know the breeder, I know where he came from, I'm not concerned about that. So we've got the quarantine pen, and that's number 1. You need to quarantine the animal a minimum of 14 days. If that bird is sick or showing any signs of sickness, then obviously you should extend that quarantine or consider, culling the animal or returning it to where you got it from. I would not knowingly introduce a bird that showed any kind of sickness into my flock unless it was something I felt confident that I could cure. And there are different things that you can do. Sometimes birds get respiratory issues, or they just get a little beat down immunologically when animals are stressed. That can definitely happen. Same thing with people. So if it was something I felt like was treatable, I would go ahead and treat them, and then obviously wait to see improvement. If I saw a noticeable improvement and I felt like the bird was healthy and it was something minor, then of course I would quarantine a little longer, wait and make sure I felt like that bird was healthy, and then go ahead and introduce him to the flock. However, if it was something I felt like I wasn't comfortable with, then I would absolutely cull that animal if I thought that there was a apparent disease or sickness that I was, unwilling to introduce to my own flock. Another thing to consider before introducing a new bird to your existing Muscovy flock is going to be whether or not that bird is a hen or a drake. And if it is a drake, most importantly, how many hens you have in order for there not to be a too high of a ratio of drakes to hens. If there are too many drakes and not enough hens, the fighting is going to be out of control and somebody's going to get hurt or killed. Because I have 10 Muscovy hens and now only 2 drakes, I know there's going to be plenty of ladies to go around, and we're not going to have any serious issues as far as the drakes feeling like they have to constantly battle one another because they don't have enough girls and they don't want to share. So that is really, really, really important. I would say a minimum of 3 or 4 hens per drake, ideally 4 or 5, because if you don't have enough hens, the fighting is just going to be insane. And because those Muscovies are so large when those drakes are fully grown and their claws are so big, I mean, they can really, really hurt one another. You really want to make sure that you're watching, however, when you do release that animal, to see what the behavior and the interactions between the flock members and the new bird are. If you're seeing a lot of aggression and a lot of violence, then I would say maybe you should pull that bird and slow down the introduction process. But again, there's a pecking order. They've got to work it out. So some violence, some aggression is 100% normal, and it's got to happen in order for them to establish their place within the flock. All right, so it's the big moment. I'm going to let Gatsby out. And this gate swings shut, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this water dish back. I'm just going to leave the gate open. I am going to go in here and actually, I think I'm going to go this way. I'm going to go this way, and I'm just going to encourage him to leave because I don't want to wait for him to get out on his own. I want to, again, make sure that I'm watching the interactions between him and the flock. Now, he comes from a breeder, a fellow Muscovy breeder, like I said, that doesn't free range their birds. They do pen breeding, and that's her setup. She doesn't have the property like we do to be able to do this. So this is going to be a very new experience for him, and I always love when we bring new birds in. These 2 hens that are right by him actually came from the same breeder, as did this hen, who was one of my originals. And these 2 young Muscovies here are probably related to him, at least half sisters, so it's just funny they're all right here. My lavender capped hen is sitting on eggs in my hay shed, and I had already found her nest once and pulled all the eggs, but now she's got a new nest and she's so far back in the hay shed I can't find the nest. I can't see it at all, so I'm just gonna leave her on her own and hope she survives and doesn't get killed by any raccoons or foxes. She's coming out during the day every so often just to eat and drink, of course, but then she's going back to the nest. Again, it's winter in West Michigan and it's snow and ice city, and it's very unlikely that those eggs are not going to freeze unless she's really, really diligent about sitting on them. And even if they do hatch, which would be really a miracle in this climate at this time of year, what's going to happen is I'm going to wind up having to brood baby ducks, which I don't want to do because they're not going to be able to survive in the cold. He's come out again. He's right there. Now we have almost the entire flock here. We've got a couple stragglers over by the wood stove, but Merlin is dead set on getting a hold of him. wants to stay away from Merlin, it's gonna be okay. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are interested in more Muscovy content and you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified when I post new videos. And please leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought about this video. If there are other Muscovy related videos you would like to see, or other videos related to holistic or natural livestock management and care, or just general duck care, what is it that you want to see? I love to hear from all of you, especially my Muscovy viewers and Muscovy lovers. There tends to be a lot of you around the world. Muscovies are so popular and they're such an amazing dual purpose breed. We love our Muscovy ducks, and I know all of you do as well. It's the fastest you're ever gonna see Merlin run.